Night fell over the Gulf Coast. The Spanish slept beside their ships, the sand still black with tar. Not far away, in the camp of a native lord, a group of captives waited for morning. Among them, a young woman who spoke several tongues. Her name was Malintzin. She had been sold and resold since childhood, from the lands of the Nahua to the Maya coast. Now, by chance, she stood between two worlds that could not understand each other. At dawn, Mayan lords arrived with food and gifts for the strangers carrying thunder weapons. Cortés tried to speak to them but didn't know their language, so he used a Spanish interpreter named Jerónimo de Aguilar. Aguilar could speak Maya, but not the main language of central Mexico, Nahuatl. Among the women given to the Spaniards was Malintzin, who spoke both Maya and Nahuatl. As Cortés spoke in Spanish, Aguilar repeated his words in Maya, and Malintzin then repeated them again in Nahuatl so the messengers could understand. The messages kept passing through this long chain, Spanish to Maya, then Maya to Nahuatl. Malintzin realized the confusion this caused, so she began speaking directly with the Nahua messengers herself. From then on, Cortés spoke to Aguilar, Aguilar spoke to Malintzin, and she spoke clearly to the local lords. The Spaniards finally had someone who could make them understood. Word spread through the camp that one of the captives could speak like the chiefs. Cortés ordered her freed and placed beside Aguilar at every council. That day marked a turning point, for him and for her. Malintzin was extraordinarily intelligent and picked up Spanish quickly. Within a few months, she could understand it well enough to translate directly between Spanish and Nahuatl. Chroniclers like Bernal Díaz del Castillo, who marched with Cortés, said she became so fluent in Castilian that she spoke it as well as any woman born in Spain. Because she spent every day listening to orders, letters, and council debates, she was effectively immersed, the first bilingual bridge between two continents. This made her indispensable. Cortés couldn't negotiate, threaten, or promise anything without her. She faced warriors who still gripped their spears. She told them what the Spaniards said, that they sought friendship, not tribute, that they would face the Aztec Empire together. Her tone was steady, her phrasing careful, always one word from disaster. Malintzin's name traveled faster than the army. In the markets of Cholula and the courtyards of Texcoco, people whispered that the bearded foreigners had a woman who spoke for them, one who knew the words of all nations. When she entered a hall, even lords lowered their eyes. She spoke little outside her duty, but everyone watched her mouth when she did. In Cholula, things took a darker turn. The city appeared peaceful at first. Priests burned incense, nobles offered gifts, and the Spaniards were led through streets lined with flowers. Yet behind the ceremony, something felt wrong. The Tlaxcalan allies whispered that warriors were gathering nearby. Trenches had been dug by the gates, and piles of stones sat ready on rooftops. Cortés feared a trap but had no proof. He turned to Malinche. She was sent to speak with a local priest's wife who was rumored to know the truth. At first, the woman denied everything, but when Malintzin spoke calmly in her language, the tension broke. The woman admitted that Aztec messengers had come with secret orders. Once the Spaniards entered the courtyards, the gates would close and the warriors would fall upon them. She even offered to hide Malintzin when the attack began. Malintzin returned and reported every detail to Cortés. He believed her completely. The next morning, he gathered his captains, called the city's nobles to a meeting, and gave the signal. The Spaniards seized the gates. Muskets and crossbows fired into the crowd. Tlaxcalan warriors rushed in behind them. For 2 days, the city burned. Hundreds were killed, the temple stripped, the survivors scattered. Spanish chroniclers later wrote that Malintzin's words saved the entire expedition, that without her, none would have lived to leave Cholula. Among the Aztecs, the story took another shape. They said the woman who spoke for the Spaniards had betrayed her own. From that day on, they called her La Traidora, the traitor. In the months that followed, diplomacy slowly turned into occupation. What began as a visit of honored guests became the quiet control of an empire's heart. The The Spaniards lived inside Moctezuma's palace, surrounded by guards who were no longer free to leave. The emperor still performed his duties, still walked through courtyards heavy with flowers, but every word he spoke now passed through Malintzin. She translated his messages to Cortés and the answers that came back, walking a line thinner than a blade. She also translated letters to the coast, requests for powder, reinforcements, and ships. Every communication between the Spanish and their allies went through her. When Cortés demanded gold, she repeated his words. When Moctezuma tried to calm his people, she repeated his too. Chroniclers later said she never showed fear, only precision. She was the voice that kept the occupation from breaking too soon. Still, the uneasy peace inside Tenochtitlan was full of strange moments. Moctezuma and Cortés dined together daily. The emperor sat on a low stool while the Spaniard sat higher, a break from every rule of court ceremony. Moctezuma sent runners each dawn to bring him news from every province, rebellions, markets, temple rituals, and Malintzin stood nearby, translating these reports into Spanish. A year later, Spanish carpenters and native laborers built 13 small warships on Lake Texcoco. Malintzin translated as engineers trained local crews to handle sails and cannon. The brigantines blockaded the city's canals, cutting off food and water. Day after day, she delivered Cortés's offers of peace to the defenders. Surrender and your people live. Resist and the city burns. None accepted. The siege dragged on for nearly 3 months. Streets turned to ditches of ash and bone. Eyewitnesses said the stench of the dead carried for miles. When Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor, was captured trying to flee by canoe, Cortés ordered Malintzin to translate his final question. Would the foreign gods now spare his people? Cortés answered no. She repeated the words without change. The empire was finished. After the fall, Malintzin stayed at Cortés's side. She appeared in the records of new councils, baptisms, and peace meetings. She traveled with him to Honduras, pregnant with his child, negotiating safe passage through hostile lands. Some documents name her Doña Marina, godmother to children of both Spaniards and natives, a woman who could move freely between two worlds that no longer trusted each other. She disappears from history soon after. Some say she died of illness near Veracruz, others that Cortés arranged her marriage to a Spaniard before leaving for Spain. What remains are the traces, her name in letters, her words in the mouths of chroniclers. To the conquerors, she was the woman who made their victory possible. Our tongue, they called her. To the conquered, she became the symbol of betrayal, the one who spoke the words that ended their world.